So if it's about coming to a shared perspective or a different perspective, I suppose the best way to do that is to be able to provide the different perspectives of the people who actually take their own lives. So you're thinking, wow, the audacity, right? But for many years, I've been able to talk to people who have attempted to take their own lives, people who've had suicidal thoughts and ideations, um, people who um, are family as well, and of course myself, right? What a better specimen, right? Maybe let me begin by saying that the decision by an individual to take his or her life sometimes happens when they are the most happiest. Yep. And you will not even know about it. You will not, you rack your brain trying to think to yourself, could it have been this time or that time when maybe the person was struggling the most or they were having the worst time of their lives? But nope. Sometimes the decision to take one's own life actually happens when life seems to be on an excellent streak. And I talk about this because it's part of the reason that lends to the confusion of the people who are left behind by the person who takes their own life. And I'm saying this to also help you understand that how you see somebody is not necessarily how they are experiencing themselves or their own reality. That is only you, how you see them, but that doesn't mean you know how they feel or what is moving them or what is lifting them or what is keeping them down. I think it's just important to understand that how you perceive somebody doesn't speak to how that person is in reality. So give room to empathize with people. Okay? I think the idea that when people threaten suicide, it's a call for people say attention. That I completely agree with. Yes, it's a call for attention. Thank you. I rubber stamp that, right? It is a call for attention. People say that it is a call for help. And the thing that makes me really want to talk about this is because of how dismissive we are of the idea that somebody could be contemplating taking their own lives. Well, it literally goes against our human instinct. Our human instinct is to survive. Even a child, like a little teeny weeny child, even if you put them in water, you'll see them kicking and lifting their neck up, wanting to not drown, if they're in water. And instinctively, even if like somebody throws something at you, you either, put a defensive motion, or your eyelids will just bat to close when something that is sudden and unknown is coming towards you. We are instinctively life preserving. So when somebody is talking about taking their own lives, please understand that there's nothing normal happening there. There's nothing normal going on. And you might want to dismiss it because you're thinking, the way I see this person, that can't be true. But remember my point number one, how you perceive somebody does not speak to how they are experiencing themselves in the world. So just take it from them that they want your attention and give it to them. And give it to them in the right way. It is always so fascinating to me that, cannot do our own hair. That's why we go to the salon and we have a professional take care of it. We cannot maintain the white sparkle of our teeth, and that's why we go to a dentist and have our oral health taken care of. I mean, even manicures and pedicures, aren't they all about getting a professional to take care of something that you need someone who is professional to do it to perfection? That's why when it comes to issues of mental health, people wanting to take their own lives, expressing the thought of wanting to take their own lives, take them to a professional. If you yourself can't do your own hair, your own teeth, your own nails, your own toes, your own waxing, why why do you think you can be able to take care of somebody's mental health? What makes you equip to be able to do that? And I think more than anything else, it is a very sensitive issue because, yeah, the mind is a mysterious organ. No one can fully claim to have understood the mind. So you can imagine when you decide to take on someone who wants to take their own lives, and you don't have the skills, the training, the education, the background, or the exposure. I mean, it's not even fair on yourself. So get professional help to people who threaten to take their own lives. Think of it as going to the salon, to the dentist. Think of it of even taking your car to the garage then. I mean, whichever way you want to think of it that makes you comfortable, do it as long as you understand it is something you need to have a professional take care of. It's not your responsibility. And it doesn't make you any more or less human because you can't, right? So, point number 3, right? If somebody survives suicide, what does that do to them? This is something that a lot of families tiptoe around, okay? But one thing that is for sure is that every member of that family understands things can never be the same again, okay? But how people choose to deal with that is not standard. There are those people who choose to actually deny the whole event even ever took place. And they're just like, let's move on. And of course, there are others who, from that particular moment, get all the help that they can be able to get so that they don't have to go through what they went through again. And of course, it just changes the family in many different ways. But what is the perspective of the person who survives? Okay? Remember, we are coming from the premise where this individual feels that their removing themselves from this world is not only useful to themselves in that the pain that they are feeling stops, but they also feel they are doing everybody else around them a favor. I know this is so hard for so many people to hear because they're like, no, but I love you. No, but you're important. No, but you matter. You're so beautiful. You're so intelligent. Again, that is your perspective. That is how you're projecting on that other person. It doesn't speak to how this person is experiencing themselves and the world. So cut it out. Cut it out. When somebody says that to you, when you know somebody is going through that, just please understand what they're trying to talk to you about, okay? That they feel that their absence not only is useful to them, but is instrumental to everybody else's happiness. And in as much as that may sound bizarre and abnormal to you, well, that's because it is. Because there's nothing sane or normal about wanting to take one's own life. Nothing. Let's just be together up to that point. Okay? And the idea that somebody has survived that doesn't mean that the thoughts have gone away. Okay? doesn't mean that the thoughts have gone away. So when you're in a family with someone who has actually survived a suicide attempt, even a co-worker, although some people who survive it, end up losing their jobs, like straight up. But that is only if your employer knows. Should your employer know? Of course. But your employer is also coming from the premise where there's a lot of stigma and discrimination about this issue of suicide. So understand that when somebody survives a suicide attempt, that you need to actually help them to address the reasons behind their kind of emotional and intellectual frame that led them to that conclusion in the first place, right? One thing I know about suicidal ideation, you know, is that it is a very the internal process. It's a very loud and disruptive, um, ongoing sort of monologue, and it is constantly and loudly repeating the same thing: die, 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 die. Right? It's not even a voice. It's not even something you see. It's like a knowing. It's like a knowing. Die, 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 die. And as I've evolved in, the understanding of, suicide, because I have taken my time to really explore and examine myself and my clients and my families, and just have very um, deep and dangerous, daring conversations. And the truth is that that loudness is so critical. It's so loud. But at the end of the day, what I have come to discover is that there is a death that needs to occur. Something needs to die, but it doesn't have to be the whole person, right? It doesn't have to be your life being the sacrifice for the promise of no more pain and not being a bother to people. It is the idea that maybe a dream you had needs to die. Maybe a perspective you had needs to die. Maybe uh, you need to bury some grief or some pain. You need to kill off a part of yourself that you identify with, and it's a very controversial thing to speak about, because I think a lot of people, because of fearing to have this conversation, would find it difficult to understand that there's a death that needs to happen, but it's not a complete and whole body sort of death that needs to happen. And for me, I think that's the message also for everyone who is out there thinking about suicide, having suicidal ideation. It's not your whole part that needs to die, it's not the whole you, but there is a part of you that needs to die, right? And life is all about life and death, if I can say so myself. It's all about life and death, and not necessarily in the birth and death sort of thing, but we see it in plants, we see it in animals, we see it in trees, we see it in seasons, we see it in everything where things die. Like this creek. This creek is dead. It was once alive. Is it still useful? It's still here. It's still here. That's all I know. And who knows, what will happen one day. Perhaps it will come back to life. But all I know is that it's still useful. Look, this is where I'm seated talking to you. Yeah? On these sedimentary rocks. Yeah, I did geography. So the perspective of the people who survive suicide attempts is important to understand, because it will help us to understand what we can consciously do in the form of action to be able to preserve them. And we need to put our judgments aside, and we need to put our perspectives aside, and we need to just really empathize with this person so that we can be able to be to them the best kind of service that we can be able to give them. I have met people who have survived suicide attempts who have looked me straight in the eye, and they have said to me, the first opportunity I get, I am going to actually just take my life. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, whoa, how do you wrap yourself around a person so that they don't hurt themselves? And I realized it's not possible. It's not possible. I'm not saying there is nothing you can do, but I'm saying it's not about how tightly you hold on to somebody. It's not about how closely you monitor them. It's not even anything about that. It's about what you can be able to do for this person to actually begin to consider different options about their own lives. And sometimes it means that you're not a part of that equation. If you're a mother, if you're a father, if you're a sister, a brother, you're not part of that equation, right? And I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear, but it's true, yeah? So the perspective of the person who has survived a suicide attempt is important in helping us to create conscious action around the prevention and awareness of suicide. Remember, the day is 10th of December, and observe it. Observe it.